The first part is how to use ADDM, that is automated discovery and dependency mapping with Applications Manager. This will help you not just automatically discover different servers and virtual machines and databases and other applications in your network, but also map the relationships between these different servers and the applications hosted on these servers, and how a problem in one application can cause a performance problem in some other dependent application. And then we will see how to identify various hardware parameters which need to be monitored in order to identify hardware problems. And hardware problems can often cause more damage in terms of cost when compared to server problems. So it is good to be prudent and always be proactive when it comes to hardware parameters as well. Then we will take a quick look at the parameters that the product can collect for Oracle VMs and kernel-based virtual machines. These are recent additions to the infrastructure monitoring module of Applications Manager. And then finally, we will see how to make use of various reports within the product for resource planning and to manage the physical and virtual servers that you might have in your IT application ecosystem. So before I begin with the first part of the webinar, I would like to take a few minutes to just ask a small favor from our attendees who are customers of Applications Manager who have been using the product. So if your experience with the product has been good, we would be really obliged if you would take the time to leave a review for us on the Gartner platform. We were ranked in the Gartner Peer Insights Customer Choice for APM last year and the year before that, and with some help from our customers and a few more reviews, we will be able to win this award this year as well. And of course, we will be sending a $25 gift card for all published reviews to customers who take the time to review us. Anyway, having said that, let us get back to the webinar and see what's the first item on our agenda, that is automate application discovery and map dependencies. Applications Manager facilitates discovery through the following ways, that is IP range discovery and VMware discovery for VMware virtual machines, and then the CIDR method of discovery. Once we specify the IP range, that is the automated discovery, the product runs a discovery in the background. That is, it checks the number of devices to ping, and then it identifies the applications or virtual machines running on these host servers, and then it displays, after the discovery is completed, the image that you see at the bottom of the screen. So you can see that there are two instances discovered, and there are different applications within these servers that are also displayed. So right from this screen, you can choose whether you need all of these VM instances to be added within the product and be monitored, or whether you want to exclude any and then proceed with the addition of the rest. So that is what the discovery looks like from within the product. Of course, we'll go to the product and take a look at this in real time as well. Let me now shift your focus to the second part of ADDM, that is dependency mapping. So we've seen application discovery. Now let's take a look at dependency mapping. And first of all, let us try to understand why dependency mapping is important. Of course, it gives us a holistic view of all the discovered applications, the discovered servers, database, and all the different IT applications that a typical IT team might have. And the mapping feature, especially the server to server mapping, will actually reveal some interesting insights as to which servers are connected and what are the hosted applications on these servers, and how these different applications are connected and how they communicate. And this can help in identifying a problematic component and see just how a particular problematic element can contribute to the downtime or performance irregularity in other applications. So it will be easier to pinpoint problems and isolate those problems and rectify them when we have visibility in the form of dependency mapping. This will help us also to understand the status of running devices, that is, whether they are available, whether they are healthy, whether they are down. And of course, if you identify a down application or an application with a problem from the dependency map, you will be able to see the root cause of that particular problem in that application from the same screen itself. So it's basically a single screen that packs a lot of useful information that can reduce troubleshooting time by significantly reducing the diagnosis time of performance problems. Let us take a quick look at how the dependency map looks like from this image, and then we'll go to the product and take a look at how to discover applications and visualize dependency mapping. Right here you can see there are two Windows Server instances given and many different instances of Tomcat servers and the Postgres database. And you can see the different interconnectivity between the applications from this screen. And if you are following my cursor, you can see that right in this case, this is an isolated incident of an issue on the Tomcat server because the connected Tomcat server seems to be healthy, and so is the connected Windows server. Similarly, if this particular Windows server instance here were in red, then the diagnosis of that issue would have been different, because then the tooltip here, when I go to the product, we'll see that the tooltip here would have displayed that the problem exists with probably the Windows server, which is contributing the downtime of this Tomcat server. So a little bit of analysis of these dependency maps can actually reveal a lot of information that can cut down the troubleshooting time drastically. Let's go to the product and take a look at the dependency maps and the automated discovery feature. So right here, I'm in the monitors tab within the product. I hope the product screen is visible. Everybody can see the product. And here you can see all the different types of technologies that Applications Manager can monitor. But anyway, what we have to do is click on the admin tab and move to the discovery and data collection title, where we'll see the add/discover option. When I click that, here I can see the discovery option, and here you will see all the different network discoveries listed if you have already created and run a network discovery. That is, you can schedule a discovery here. That is, once you have created a discovery, you can rerun this discovery at any point of time. So what I'll do now is use this discovery. You can click on add new, and when you click on add new, this is the kind of screen that you will see, where you will have to enter the relevant details for the discovery to take place. So what I'm doing now is using the VMware discovery, and once you specify your credentials and click on discover. Now remember, the discover and add function will not just discover but automatically create a monitor group with all the discovered applications added, but the discover device will list all the discovered devices and give you the flexibility of adding the applications you want and excluding the ones you don't. So what I'm going to do now is click on discover, and this will trigger the discovery process. Let's wait for a few seconds for the discovery to get completed, and then we'll select and add the applications. All right, so the discovery is completed, and we see here that 2 servers and 4 applications were discovered. So let us see what these 2 servers and applications are. The 2 servers are, of course, these 2 servers, and the 4 applications is when I click this icon here, I see that there are 3 VM instances on this one, and there's one on this one. So these are the 4 applications. Now, right here, I can select the instances that I want to add and monitor. If I don't want a particular instance, I can uncheck this box and then click on add. But however, I'm going to select everything and I'm going to click on add selected devices. So we see that all of these applications have been added to the console, and I'm going to go back to the admin tab. Now, what we have done now is completed the discovery process and we have added these to our product. Now, what we need to do is see the dependency mapping feature, right? So again, the admin tab, add discovery, same place as the last time, and below the network discovery, you will see the dependency maps. Now again, I have created a few dependency maps already, but you can of course click on add new, select select the instances for which you want to create dependencies, and the view demo will give me a demo right here. I can see how it will look like. Now see, because the instances, there are just 2 instances, but the number of applications running on these instances are quite a few. We see that this is quite a complex map that is being generated. Now of course we can drag and drop and create the map, and I mean realign the map in any which way that suits our requirement. So what I'm going to do is go back to network discovery and click on this map that I have already created, and here you can see the different red and green dots, which give us a quick overview about the health of these particular application instances. And when I put my mouse over that instance, I will be able to see the root cause as to why this particular instance has its health in the critical status. And here you see that the Postgres database is down. Now this is the kind of insight I was talking about. Now when you see that both of these are in red, and you see that both of these are also in red, and these are also in red. So ideally, if the problem were in the Windows server, which is causing the downtime on the Postgres and this Tomcat, you would have seen that that would have been the case with this Tomcat as well. So this kind of tells us that these are individual issues with each of these instances, and what these issues are can be revealed with simply moving the mouse over that particular instance and knowing the root cause. So this is just a simple example of how the dependency map view can actually ease the troubleshooting process. Now, this is a single dependency map view that I am seeing for the applications running on 2 connected servers. Now, if you have, of course, in your IT setup many different servers, you can have all those server instances connected here and then see the dependencies for those. Or you can create a new dependency map to create and to visualize the relationships between different server instances. Now, this is about ADDM. Let's get back to the presentation and take a look at the next thing on the agenda, which is the hardware problems that can contribute to server downtimes. Now, before we discuss in detail about hardware problems, let us take a quick overview at all the different parameters, the key parameters that one has to focus on when we're talking about infrastructure monitoring. Now, it goes without saying that the CPU and memory utilization parameters are the fundamental parameters that we have to monitor when it comes to our server health. The CPU utilization broken down by individual CPU cores, the memory utilization, the disk space, that is the space available on different drives. These kind of details and the thresholds associated with these details can help you plan your load distribution across different drives appropriately so that the end user facing applications are always performing seamlessly because the resources from these drives are always available. And and the network details can help us identify as to where the problem exists, whether it exists on the network front or whether it exists on the application side or whether the problem exists with the server. And again, when we're talking about servers or virtual servers, the processes or the services that are running in these servers can also be monitored from within the product. For example, if we take the example of a Windows server, the Windows processes, the Windows services, the scheduled jobs in your Windows server, and even the event logs can be monitored with Applications Manager. In fact, you can restart or start or stop a particular Windows service from within the Applications Manager console. And finally, the hardware metrics. So once the server parameters are taken care of, we also need to identify the hardware parameters that that can cause server downtimes. Each of these metrics, for example, this is uh, a sample screen for the different types of metrics that are collected for a Windows server, and each of these metrics can be associated with a particular threshold, and and the user will get a notification about a particular alarm being raised that is an unusually high value or a deviation from the standard value that displays an irregular behavior of that particular server. All of these small anomalies can be identified before they become potential problems. And coming back to the hardware problems, so on your right, you can see the different parameters that you can monitor with Applications Manager. And on the left, you can see some examples of what could happen if these hardware parameters go unnoticed. For example, extreme temperatures or unregulated power supply can actually cause your server to break down. And this could cause a disruption in service delivery. So, as much as we prioritize the server side metrics, we should equally focus on the hardware parameters that can often be costlier than server performance problems. And there are quite simple prerequisites for hardware monitoring with Applications Manager. Right here, you can see for Dell machines, all you need to do is have the Open Managed Server Administrator installed on your machine. And if you're talking about HP machines, then you will need the System Insight Manager version 6.2 or above for hardware performance parameters to be collected with Applications Manager. Let's go to the product and take a quick look at the parameters that we just discussed. So yes, right here again, I'm on the monitors tab. So what I'm going to do is first take the example of this Windows server, and right here in this Windows server, let us begin with the overview tab. The overview tab will give us a quick look about the health and availability of this server. So it tells us that the health is clear, the availability is high, the CPU, memory, and disk utilization statistics are in safe zones, the page memory usage statistics, and of course, if I add processes and services, I will be able to see them here. Let me click on the CPU tab and take a look at the CPU utilization by individual cores right here in the list form. The disk utilization right here. And of course, if you look on the right side, if you're following my cursor, you can configure thresholds for each of these parameters. So every parameter can be tracked and an alarm can be generated if threshold values are breached. The network details will give us information about the network interface and the network adapter and the exchange rate of traffic with respect to the network interface and this particular Windows Server instance. If the event log monitoring is enabled, you will be able to see it here. There's an option in the admin tab to enable Windows event logs. Once that is done, you will be able to monitor it. But to monitor Windows event logs, you will have to add the Windows Server using the WMI mode. Let us take a look at a VMware server and take a look at some of the metrics collected here. So here you see the overview of this particular VMware ESX instance. The different instances are right here. The CPU utilization broken down by individual cores, memory utilization stat, network details, and finally, let us take a look at the hardware details that we were talking about in the presentation for so long. So right here, you can see the power, the fan, and the temperature details of this ESX instance. And as I mentioned, you can configure alarms to understand whether this particular power value exceeds a specified threshold. So again, this is basically proactive monitoring where you're trying to stay ahead of the problems and trying to identify these potential business service performance threats and rectifying them before they actually pose a threat. So these are the kind of details that the product collects and the kind of insights that it allows you to collect. So the storage details, the storage mapping, yes, this is again another important um, information that the product offers with respect to virtual machines. The ESX server, you can see the entire storage mapping for this instance. So let me go back to the presentation and let us discuss the next thing on our agenda, which is Oracle VMs and kernel-based virtual machines. So these two technologies have been recent additions to the product, and the metrics pertaining to Oracle VM comprise of the CPU and memory utilization statistics, the fundamentals, and the disk and network usage as well. For kernel-based virtual machines, CPU and memory utilization along with network details are collected, and since the KVM architecture is made up of storage pools and storage volumes, it is important to track the parameters of these storage pools and volumes. So that is present in the product as well. So let me just take you back to the product for again and just quickly show you these parameters. So again, the monitors tab under the virtualization heading right here on the right side, you can see the Oracle VM server. I'm going to take this instance, any instance. You see that the health here is down. Again, the overview tab is really useful in just getting a quick look at the overall health and the status of a particular server or application. So you see that the availability, the CPU and memory, as well as the disk and network usage here, the network detail with the interface and the status, the MAC address, basically the network details right here. So let me go back to the monitors tab and maybe show you the kernel based virtual machine. So right here again, for KVM, all the important parameters that you might need for performance monitoring are here. Right here the health is down, and it says the health is down because this particular resource is down, and that is right here. We see that the VM instance generic is shut off, which is obviously why the overall health of the KVM seems to have gone down. The CPU parameters are here. The network details like the other infrastructure elements, virtual machines and servers, the storage pools, as I mentioned in the presentation, and the storage volumes, the details are here. So the memory utilization of these SPs and the storage volumes can be seen from this screen. And you will find the configuration tab for every type of application that is monitored with the product, and these are just the basic configuration details of any kind of instance that it is. So back to the presentation, and it brings us to the final part of the presentation, and in this part we will see about capacity planning and performance forecasting. So let's take capacity planning on one side. So what capacity planning is supposed to do is to measure the utilization of your servers or virtual machines, and then be able to inform whether a particular server instance is being overused or underused, because these kind of insights can actually help load distribution across servers, and this can enable the applications that are dependent on these servers to perform seamlessly. On the other side, when we're talking about forecast reports should empower users to use historical performance trends to predict the future performance trends. So when you put capacity planning report and forecast reports together, you understand in terms of your infrastructure elements, that is servers and virtual machines, what is the used capacity, what is the current load that particular server is handling, whether you need to upgrade capacity or whether a simple load redistribution strategy will suffice. And and forecast reports again, when you combine the insights of these two reports, you are able to prepare for the growth in utilization and be ready or equip your business to handle incoming requests even if they increase with increase in the business. So I think when we take a look at the reports, it should become clearer as to the kind of insights that we will be able to receive from these reports. And of course, before we go to the product, I would also like to show you some details about the capacity planning reports, because these capacity planning reports, if you see on the screen, now this is exactly how the capacity planning report is going to look like. And of course, this is not a product generated report as much as it is based upon the user's definition of what is an overused server or underused server. So it's basically you that is going to configure this as to how much of the utilization parameter has to be exceeded for it to be defined as oversized. So based upon the size and the amount of incoming requests being processed, you can adjust this metric to define the capacity limits of your server. We also have audit logs in the product for more visibility if you're an admin of Applications Manager, because this will capture all the details, all the activities that have taken place within the product by any user. This will also help you assign user roles and privileges with more thought and clarity based upon the kind of changes or additions or any deletions that are happening from within the product on different essential applications and servers. So going back to the product again, so we can see a little bit about the reports. So right here, I clicked on the reports tab. On the left, you can see there are a lot of different kinds of reports. That is, these are all attribute based reports for different kinds of technologies that we monitor for servers, application servers, databases, virtualization reports for virtual servers, and converged infrastructure reports, which we have added recently, and capacity planning reports. This is the one that we're going to take a look at now. And right here, you can see that these capacity planning reports are available for all types of servers as well as virtual machines. I can click on this option right here, and let's take the Windows Server example, and let's take a look at the undersized servers. So these are the 4 different Windows servers that I have added within my product. And this is, if you notice, the exact screenshot that I have used in the presentation. So right here, it tells us that the server is undersized if these conditions are met. And these conditions are what you can set right over here. And based upon these conditions, this is the report that you will be able to see. And of course, you can see that this particular instance has its utilization beyond the configured threshold. And of course, this also gives us another important insight, that is, we do not necessarily need to upgrade capacity, but a simple reallocation of some of the load on this instance to any of these instances will actually solve this problem of the server being overutilized. So that is about the capacity planning reports. Let me scroll a little below and show you the forecast reports. So what we are going to do is maybe see the disk utilization of the servers, the forecast report of it. And you can see here all of the different servers that are added within the product. They are all listed here, 10 of them, and each of them represented with different colors here in the graph. This is a 1 month forecast by growth, and this is the same for utilization. Let us click on 6 months, and right here you can see the graph changing, and you can set a custom date to create one for any date in the future. And however, right here, this graph gives us some important information, that you see that 5 of these 10 servers have already breached their critical values, and there are 3 of them which are already approaching that zone. So this again will help us identify that, for example, these 2 instances might soon breach the 80% mark and enter the critical zone. So it is important to be wary of these problems with insights like this. So this is about the forecast reports, and let us go back to the presentation now. Uh, I'm sorry, let us quickly take a look at the audit reports before we go back to the presentation. So yes, right here in the admin tab, under the tools title, you will see the audit logs. And right here, you can see all the different actions that in fact we recently performed. So you can see even the things that I performed recently are captured here, and all of the important details. In fact, the username, since I am the admin, it says admin, but if I have another user with the operator role assigned, it will show that particular detail right here. It also shows the action type. So this again gives a lot of clarity into how different technicians are using the product and the kind of changes on different applications that are being made. And from an admin perspective, this insight is also useful. So back to the presentation. We have come to the end of the presentation. So what I'm going to do is have a quick recap of what we have seen. We saw firstly ADDM, which is application discovery and dependency mapping, how to discover applications automatically by specifying the IP range and then selecting and adding different servers or applications. And then we also saw how to create a dependency map, that is server to server mapping, and how it reveals the connections between different applications and servers, and how problems in one could impact the performance of another. We saw different server metrics and VM metrics and the important fundamental metrics. And then we also saw the hardware problems, some of the hardware metrics that we need to monitor in order to have a comprehensive infrastructure monitoring strategy. We took a look at some of the metrics that we collect in the recently added technologies in the infrastructure module, that is the Oracle virtual machines and kernel-based virtual machines. And then we took a look at the capacity planning and performance forecasting reports, which helped us identify different servers and the load distribution on different servers, and kind of make informed decisions about capacity planning in any IT organization. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. I hope you had a learning experience, and I hope to see you again next week for the next part of this Applications Manager free webinar. Thank you. Have a good day.